Hey guys, my name is Matsumiyo, and welcome to your episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. So get the format is out of the way real quick. If you'd like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for the day is, did you hear that Ubisoft is hinting at finally buffing Tachanka? I did hear about that, and all I can say is that it is about time. If you're not aware of what he's referring to, right now on the technical test servers, Ubisoft has updated basically every single one of the operator's backstory and bio. If you go to their description, they're a lot more in depth, and on some of them, they've kind of left some tidbits or hints as to what we can expect in the future, and one of them includes Tachanka. It states that while he's not really fond that people are wanting to change his gadget, that he understands that it's crucial for the team. And it also states that Mira is looking into some modifications on how she can improve his gadgets. Now, obviously, this isn't confirmation that he's getting a rework, but Ubisoft has been hinting, not really hinting, they basically stated years ago at this point that they want to rework Tachanka, they just haven't done anything since then. And so this has been the first time in quite some while that they've actually mentioned anything about changing this character, and I'm hopeful that it's not going to be too much longer. Now, the real question is, though, is what is Ubisoft going to do about it? They stated that they're essentially going to have to rework this operator from the ground up, but based off of this description, that doesn't seem to be the case. I got the impression from their Q&A a while ago that they were going to basically be making a brand new character, even with a new character design, so even like the look of Tachanka would be different, but this makes it seem like they're just going to be slightly modifying his gadgets. If that's the case, there are so many ways that they could approach this. They could give him access to two of these gadgets where either him and a buddy could use this at any given moment, or he could have something to fall back on when the first position is compromised. That gives him a bit more maneuverability. They could just actually make the LMG a bit more viable and maybe increase its RPM. Now, granted, this suggestion does not get to the underlying issue of Tachanka, and that is the fact that it requires him to stay stationary. Ubisoft has acknowledged that standing still in a game like Rainbow Six Siege is not a viable mechanic. You need to be able to have that movement if you want to be successful. And because Tachanka has to stay in one place the entire time, that's the reason why he is so ineffective. And so maybe what they need to do is just simply allow him to rip off that turret and run around with it on the map. Now, maybe it needs to have a slower aim down sight because obviously it is quite heavy, but maybe that is something that they're going to do. All in all, though, I'm really hopeful that this isn't Ubisoft just teasing us and that they really do plan on making changes to this character. Tachanka has been in this state for years now, and I really think that he deserves some time in the sun, and so I'm crossing my fingers that we're finally going to be getting an update, at least in the near future. The next question comes from Tyler, and it is, do you think that the CanCan and Goyle combo is a bit overpowered? What if they fixed it by if a shield is placed in the same doorway as an EDD, the gadget is destroyed? I was wondering when I was going to get one of these questions. Every single season, and I'm also guilty of this to some extent, a new gadget or operator comes out, and then people kind of jump to conclusions that it's overpowered without actually playing with it or against it for an extensive amount of time. And that's already obviously happening with Goyle. If you're not aware of the combo that he's referring to, basically what you do is you put his gadget, the Vulcan shield, in a doorway, and then you put a CanCan trap directly on said doorway. That way, when an offensive operator jumps on over, they take the initial damage of the CanCan trap that then activates the Vulcan shield, fire goes everywhere, and then they essentially get taken out because of that extra fire damage. It basically one-shots anyone that tries to vault on over. Now, admittedly, this combination is very powerful. Like, I'll agree with you on that one, especially if you don't have the necessary gadgets or operators to be able to counter this. You're going to be in a tough position. You're now going to be limited on how many ways you can get into the objective room. The thing is, though, is that it does have a lot of counters, and on top of that, it requires two operators to actually pull this off. You need to have both Goyle and CanCan, which limits you on the other operators that you're going to have on your team, and so that's one limiting factor. factor. On top of that, just like Castle, this has a lot of counters. All you need to do is get rid of the shield. This can be done with a nade, Ashe, Zofia. You can use an EMP to get rid of the EDD. Twitch is drone. You would be surprised at how quickly you can turn the tables on defense if you're able to take out that CanCan gadget. Defense is really using that as an early warning sign, because when the Vulcan shield goes off, either that means you took out that gadget with the things that we just talked about, or you vaulted on over. Either way, that now means that they need to watch that angle. But if they don't hear that go off, they might be busy watching some other part of the map because they really do expect that it's going to be watching their back. And so with an EMP or a Twitch drone, you're able to kind of turn the tables into your favor. If all that wasn't enough, you can also use verticality and windows or different angles to just simply take out the shield from a side that they weren't expecting. There are a lot of ways of countering this. And so all in all, while I will admit that it is quite powerful in the right circumstance on the right map, this is a force to be reckoned with. But because there are a lot of ways to countering it, I don't think that it's overpowered as people are making it out to be. I could change my tune in a couple of weeks. Maybe there are going to be some maps and some objectives where it feels like it's almost impossible to work around it, or you really have to bring the right tools to be able to take care of this combo. But I definitely think it is way too early to tell at this point. The next question comes from Avery, and it is, do you feel like people wouldn't mind reused weapons in Siege if they had chosen better options? Season 2 included 2 of the weakest SMGs and shoddy, and Season 3 has a barely used LMG. Well, I think that people would still be disappointed because at the end of the day, they want more content. They want more weapons to play around with that they've never used before. Like, that's something that they enjoy about Rainbow Six Siege. I'm in that category. I love to have more tools and more ways to play the game. With that said though, I do think the choice of weapons that we have available to us in this season are way better than the last one, and it's actually gotten me to enjoy IQ's LMG a lot more than I ever did before. This kind of got me thinking, what if this is a trend that Ubisoft starts doing with future seasons where they do reuse content? They bring in a weapon that is underused, hardly anyone actually likes it, maybe add an attachment or buff it slightly, make it more viable, or in this case, it was actually something that was quite good, but people just kind of didn't use it for whatever reason, and now people kind of view it from a different light or a different play style, and now it gets more use. All of a sudden, that underused content that people really weren't taking advantage of rises to the top, and really, at the end of the day, that brings in a bit more diversity. I don't know if that would really be a bad thing. And so overall, while I do see where you're coming from, I think what it really just comes down to is people just want more content. It's something that they've been expecting, it's something that Ubisoft has been delivering on each season, and the fact that they are kind of deviating from that now, that's why it's been a bit of a sour spot. The next question comes from Maxwell, and it is, I have an idea for an offensive operator in Rainbow Six Siege, an operator that has Pulse's gadget, plain and simple. I don't know if I would like that. Now, admittedly, I am biased because I don't like Pulse. I find his gadget to be gimmicky and in most cases, incredibly frustrating to go against. In a game like Rainbow Six Siege, where basically every operator in this game has a give and take between the two different sides. You know when your position has been compromised by a Valkyrie, or at least for the most part you do, because there's literally a camera in the room that you can physically see. Now, I know that there are some discrepancies to this. You have Echo, who has a cloaking gadget where it can be very difficult to actually identify where it is, but by and large, you have to be in the room with that gadget for them to be able to know where you're located. With Pulse, that's not actually the case. He can be directly below you or through a wall, and you would have no idea that you're there. And so if you then take that very same concept and give it to an offensive operator, that's gonna open up a whole other can of worms. Now imagine him being paired up with a Fuse, for example, or a Sledge or a Buck. You know exactly where that player is. The Pulse or this new character on offense identifies as like, hey, yeah, there's a guy down below, Buck opens on up, and then gets an easy free takedown. How are you going to stop that? That is going to be incredibly difficult for defense to deal with. Now, I realize that is a form of teamwork. Teamwork is a good thing and something that you want to promote, but I don't know if that is kind of the direction that I want to take. I like the fact that when you drone on in and defense knows that they've been droned, they can move. I mean, that's one of the biggest dynamics dynamics of this game, that give and take, that ebb and flow of information gathering, and then trying to twist that information into your advantage. And by literally just allowing someone to know your position through a wall, it's just not something that I want to see, but obviously that is just my opinion. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Do you like the idea of having a pulse-like operator on offense? Are you not really too fond of that? Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until next time, guys, have a good one and take it easy.